Hello painters! I have some more wonderful things to show you, so let's get started. I worked on the pear and the shelf, adding some detail and refining it just a bit. I darkened the shelf a little more here and here, and I decided to put this teddy bear here, so I added a little bit more darkness right in here. I did some more dry brushing on the shelf, and I did magic floating to add medium darks, and I did magic floating to add the darkest darks. A little more dry brushing, a little glazing, all the things that we've done so far. Then I did some more stippling on the pear with a lighter yellow color. I did some magic floating with a little bit more dark, and I added a little bit more red, and I added a little bit of green in here. Then I dry stippled the lightest area, the highlight color, but it's not super light because pears aren't real reflective. Then I used my little scrubby brush to clean up some of the edges, demonstrating sometimes I don't get the edges real clean. So I use this little scrubby brush, and it is called a Bringle scrubby, comes in medium and small, and I use it with water, and I can just very gently come right up to the edge and clean up any little smudges that might have occurred. So once I got this cleaned up, I extended the shelf. I added that so that I could sit this teddy bear here and paint him with the wet stippling method. Wet stippling is what we want to do today. When I say wet stippling, I don't mean that you add more water. I mean that you add more paint. So you're going to start with your brush the same as usual. It's damp, but it doesn't make your fingers wet. So you want to make sure you blot most of the moisture out of it. You're going to pick up color from your palette. Remember, pick it up out of the center of your paint puddle. You'll come to your dry palette, stipple that into your brush just a little bit, but you don't have to really stipple it hard like you do for dry stippling. We'll place this color right where you want it, just gently stippling straight up and down on the tips of the brush. Blot your brush, pick up your next color. We're going to use a drastic color here. Blend a little bit. Now we're going to set this color down where we want it to be the most intense. Stipple up to your original stippling. Blot your brush. Then gently stipple these two colors together. We want to make sure that we're working both colors back and forth. It's easiest to work wet into wet. So if the first color dries up, all you have to do is pick that color up again, put it back in there, blot your brush, and gently stipple back and forth. Make sure you're blotting your brush frequently so that one color doesn't absolutely take over. This is the technique I use to create textured surfaces such as bunnies and kitties, things with fur, and smooth-coated animals, cows and horses, and also for spotty animals, things like pigs. It gives a textural look, but not necessarily a hairy look. So let's see how it works on the teddy bear. I'm going to first of all pick up my dark value, a little bit of water in the brush, blot the brush so that it doesn't make your fingers wet. I'll pick up my dark value first. I'll blend that on my palette, just a little bit. And you probably won't be able to see this color very well because it's almost the color of my background, but I'll go ahead and stipple it anyway. I'll blot my brush, pick up my next color, blend that on the palette, place that right where I want it. Blot my brush and stipple those two colors together. I'll pick up my dark color again because it's kind of dry in there. Summertime in Kansas, it's pretty warm. Let's just go back and forth a couple of times. To get the look we want. I usually try to make sure I cover up my pattern lines because sometimes they don't erase very well, and it's really hard to come back in with the background color and cover up pattern lines when you want to actually have a fuzzy look. I don't know if you just heard that tappy tappy tapping, but that's my little bitsy dog. She just decided to come into the room. Okay, now I want to go to my lightest value. And I'll just gently stipple that in place and maybe blend. You just have to have your little cloth handy and constantly be blotting your brush. That's kind of a foreign concept to acrylic painters, but we want to blot that brush frequently so that we can keep control of what the values are doing. I'll start with my medium value again. I want to put down quite a bit of paint because I want it to stay wet and because I want it to blend into each other. So we'll go with a little dark here. Remember, my technique is layering, so this first time around probably isn't going to look exactly the way you want it to, but you have all those other techniques that you can use to make it look just right. So I'm blotting my brush again, going back to my medium value, and as I go forward and do more blending, each layer that gets blended, I use just a little bit less pressure each time so that it blends a little bit more softly. I'll go to my lightest value, and I want to catch the light on the top of the foot here. Maybe a little bit here on the roundness of the leg. Right in here where the foot kind of turns and goes in front of the leg a little bit. Okay, medium value again. Doesn't matter which one you start with, you just have to put it in the right place. We'll get our light, or actually this is our medium value, going here along this outside edge. Our dark value will go on the inside edge away from the light. Blot your brush and blend the two together. Remember, make sure you're covering up your pattern lines, even if you have to go in there and just dab right over the top of them. And you can work these colors back and forth. You just have to remember to blot your brush frequently. Anytime your brush does something you don't want it to do, then that's the time to blot your brush. Alright, go into my light value. And catch the light there on that part of his arm. I'll go to a little bit bigger brush for his tummy, just so I can do it faster. I'll get this lightness going right in here, all around. And I want to put, I'm going to try to do this real quickly, so I'm going to put down quite a bit of paint and hopefully it'll stay wet for me for a while. And back to a little bit smaller brush again. Just whatever color you need, pick it up, put it down, blot your brush, and blend the two together. If one color dries, just put some more paint down over the top of the dry and keep on blending. Keep that cloth handy. I like to when I'm stippling especially, I like to keep it in my hand so that I can quickly just blot off the excess paint, and I'll just stipple away. You can see that it doesn't matter. You can use your light first, you can use your dark first. You can, when you first put the paint down, you can tap it fairly gently. Then, as the paint goes out of the brush more, you can hit it just a little bit harder. When you're trying to blend the colors together, you want to hit it gently. And I want to create a big fat roundness right in there. Okay, so then I'll go to my light value. And work some of that light value in, and then I want to tap in just a little bit more to create a highlight there. It looks like I'm running out of time here, so I will finish up this teddy bear and you'll be able to see it next time. Now remember, this is just one step. You can always do some dry rubbing, you can do some dry stippling, you could even do some magic floating. All of the techniques that we employed here on the pear and on the shelf, all of those techniques will work together. You don't have to keep them separated. Don't be afraid to try. If you don't have enough dark in, do a little glazing, or if you can't get the light enough, do a little bit of dry stippling. Most of the time when you do a wet stipple, you don't want to, once it's dry and you're going to layer it, you don't want to continue doing that wet stipple. You'll probably want to switch over to a dry stipple. So I'll finish up the bear so that you can see it next time when I show you another wet into wet technique. Until then, have a great day painting.